So it's time now for our panel discussion. So I would like to invite our colleagues to join us on the panel. And I think we have someone online, right? Okay, perfect. So before giving the floor to Leah, let's organize a little bit the local panel. So thanks, Leah, for waiting a few minutes. So I would like to invite Lapo, Bertini, Yiannis, Kotsiopoulos, Annabel, Seebohm, Mariam, Shokralla, and Verena to join us on the panel. Okay, I think we are almost set. So in the previous session, we had an interesting set of presentations and some introductory statements so that we more or less set up the grounds, both from the joint action perspective and the Commission. Kyriakos made a very nice introduction about the vision and the scope of all this and the need for collaboration. And we also had some very, let's say, insightful presentations from the different representative people of the industry associations that are present here. And now we have identified some topics of discussion, trying to focus mostly on how to set up this collaborative effort so that the end result of the joint action to start with, but also maybe other similar parallel processes, are somehow aligned to the common vision and the common goals. And Kyriakos was very talkative, saying that we have this vision in the Commission by 2030 to have an EHR system that can handle 100% of data of European citizens. So that's a very large vision. So with that, we have online Leah Martina from DG Santé, and I will first give the floor to Leah to give the views of DG Santé. We made several similar discussions yesterday on the other forums. So Leah, the floor is yours, and give us your insights about this.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So first of all, I have to say that I wish I were with you in Athens for in this beautiful panel, probably also good food and good weather. It's my first time at the Athens Digital Health Week, and thank you for having me. I followed the session this morning, and it was really inspiring, and it's super important also for us to have your views and your perspectives. So thank you so much for the discussion this morning, and hopefully we will have now an interesting session. As Kyriakos already this morning framed a bit the topic of the EHDS, I think it's no surprise if for us the EHDS is not just a framework, but it's really a way forward for Europe to battle healthcare through innovation. The EHDS creates a secure and connected space for health data sharing, making it easier for researchers, businesses, and policymakers to work together. So all this is more than access, is about empowerment. So empowering clinicians with real-time and actionable information, empowering industry to innovate faster and with greater impact, empowering citizens by controlling their health data, and also empowering artificial intelligence to unlock insights from the data. So all this, as we also saw this morning, will open new market opportunities and support a connected digital health environment. And all this will enhance Europe leadership in health innovation. So in this context, the European Electronic Health Record Exchange format, so if that's fine with you, I will call it format from now on, so I don't take half an hour for my presentation, is really a key framework enabling the secure and interoperable exchange of electronic health records across the EU member states. And the format primarily supports the interoperability of health data for clinical use, but also its structure offers potential for secondary use like research, innovation, and policymaking. And to ensure interoperability, it is required that the HR systems align with the format specification, impacting their development life cycle because they need to be compliant with these standards, as this morning Lapo well explained. So to help this, the Commission is implementing the European Electronic Health Record Exchange Support Center. And this center will play a critical role in achieving the broader goals of the EHDS by providing the tools and expertise needed to make the cross-border data exchange a reality. So this will support the stakeholders in adopting best practices and on like sharing experiences, and all this will drive the success of the HDS. Of course, for industry, HR systems represent a significant opportunity, and the systems built to meet the EU standards can open doors to new markets, improve patient care, and drive innovation. Annex 2 of the regulation outlines the essential requirement for harmonized software components of the electronic health record systems and related products. And just to review a bit, the requirements focus on 3 key areas. So the general requirements, so this means that the systems must be safe, work as expected, and easily connect with other products while protecting the user rights. Then we have interoperability. So system needs to handle data in the format, allowing smooth data sharing and portability without any unnecessary restrictions. Security and logging. So system must provide secure access, track data use, and offer tools to review and manage logs to ensure trust and accountability. So all these requirements make sure that the HR systems are safe, connected, and trustworthy while supporting easy data exchange. So it will be important in the future to leverage on the digital testing environments to validate compliance with the HDS standards and ensure alignment with the European requirements. And also to support the digital testing environments, we are launching a project for EU database of electronic health record systems and wellness application. And this database will provide public access to official information on digital testing environments, including documentation, open source reference implementation, and member states' recommended systems. So in this way, manufacturers can easily identify the testing environments needed for assessing harmonized EHR components. Compliance with the HDS regulation will be presumed for systems tested positively, ensuring interoperability, security, and logging standards. So what happens once compliance and certified, the manufacturers can register their system in the EU database and place them on the market. One of the consequences is that the companies that invest in HDS compliant HR systems can lead the way in making health solutions scalable, secure, and focus on patients. We discussed already this morning that the success of the HDS implementation depends on teamwork among industry, vendors, and stakeholders. If we don't do this co-creation process, as said many times, the HDS won't fly. And events like this are vital for setting the timeline, sharing strategy, and ensuring smooth implementation of the HDS. And I'm really happy to hear that there are a lot of events already planned. So I really hope that we can keep the momentum and keep discussing together. Also because the collaboration with stakeholders, and I want to stress the fact of the role of the joint action and also the industry is crucial to ensure that the technical specifications are really addressing the practical needs. So it's really important to establish a stable and transparent collaboration between, in this moment, industry and the joint action, because it's really key to this project. So now we have about 2 years period for developing the technical specification via the legally binding implementing acts to ensure uniform application across the EU. And the work of the joint action will directly inform the implementing acts. So it will be really important to put efforts in the consultations to really have your say in preparing the obligations that are coming in force really soon. For us, it's important also to highlight that the collaboration with other groups and forums are really important especially for the member states to be ready and also to help industry. So I just want to mention the EMSEC that plays an important role in helping the member states to adopt the format by offering expert advice and structured guidance. Also, the Health Network subgroups that recently have produced 5 new guidelines versions that align the data sets across domains and prepare for the EHDS transition. And also, of course, other projects like Expand the Age and XShare that provide really valuable assistance to member states, also helping them addressing the challenges and in planning for the implementation. So in our view, this is really a critical time for industry to create new services and drive innovation and really boost Europe's position as global leader in healthcare. And trust is essential in making these advancements last. And I just want to give you the example of the action plan on cybersecurity for hospitals and healthcare providers that really underscores Europe's commitment to protecting the digital infrastructure, systems, and data to be able to perform a healthcare digital transformation. So by creating a secure and trusted digital health environment, the EHDS gives the industry the confidence to invest, innovate, and provide solutions that can benefit both patients and providers. And now I just want to jump a bit more in the future about the new governance of the EHDS that will include the EHDS board, where 2 representatives from member states for primary and secondary will be part of this board, and also the My Health at EU and Health Data at EU steering groups, because this new governance will engage way more with representatives from industry, patient, healthcare professionals to keep really the process fair and balanced. And also, a new stakeholder forum will be created based on the success of the eHealth stakeholder group, which I'm sure part of you are members. And this stakeholder forum will gather the feedback to really ensure that everyone's voice is heard, and it will work even closer with the board and the steering groups. So one of the main challenges ahead of us for sure include fostering collaboration and engagement with stakeholders even more than in the past when we were speaking about what we can improve. I think this is one of the aspects that we can improve. And also it will be difficult to manage the high complexity of integrating and harmonizing the data across the different priority categories. So we will need help from industry, healthcare provider, patients, and policymakers to make the format the best it can be. So your input will ensure that it works well for everyone in Europe. And also by working together, we can make sure that the format meets the needs of healthcare now and in the future. So the collaboration together will make it practical, flexible, and also useful for everyone. So events like this are really important. They're platforms for sharing progress and also fostering alignment. And the HDS is designed to change and improve as our technology and healthcare evolve. So it's really important that all together we are working for a better care for patients and also help Europe to stay a leader in digital health. And I would like to conclude announcing an event maybe some of you heard about. So on the 18th of March, there will be an important event celebrating the European Health Data Space, and hopefully really soon a lot of invitations will come your way. So I hope to see you at that event to celebrate together the adoption of the EHDS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leah. So mark your calendars, March 18, it's the kickoff. This is the main message. Okay, which means that there are a lot of things that we have to prepare, and maybe this is the best place to describe this collaborative approach. So Leah mentioned different things. One top part of the discussion is very, let's say, low in the policy food chain, is how do we work together on the specification part, but it's very important because this will address basically the community. Another topic is the governance. So Leah described that there will be a new set of governance rules enforced by regulation as well. So Verena and Annabel presented the XNet approach, which was coming from the Expand DH part. So we need to see and maybe refine the proposal to see how this would fit in the regulatory approach of governance. So that's one thing, so that we try to align what we have done so far with what is coming up. So that's a topic that potentially we can start from this one. And then I'll probably ask you, Annabel and Verena, to comment a little bit on this. How do you think that we can align the things that we have been proposing through the different projects that Leah mentioned, Expand the HX share, and maybe there are some few new ones that will come up in the board that we need to take into account as well. So
I think I'm going to start because Annabel...
It's okay.
Does it work now? Okay. Yeah, thank you first of all for the presentation. I think it was very insightful to see also DG Sante's perspective there. And I think what we can underline today is the need for an ongoing dialogue. It's very nice to see the openness also from the joint action, but also from the Commission. And I think we all really need to work together to, in an open manner and transparent manner, to have this ongoing dialogue to give meaningful input. For us, it's very relevant to have public consultations, these targeted consultations that are there, to have opportunities to exchange also in form of events. But of course, on top of that, it's important to have also an information flow between these opportunities to really give meaningful input throughout the way and to be a part of the development process. And also, it's very good to have a stakeholder forum then also in place that collaborates with the EHDS board, gives advice, gives input, and we really hope also that there will be bi-directional communication, so not presentations, of course, of what's going on, but also the opportunity to give direct feedback in this stakeholder forum. So we welcome this opportunity and this forum, and we really hope that we can leverage this and build on this communication there.
If I may add, and I agree with this, and of course we have the EL stakeholder network where we have experience in collaboration, but what I would like to highlight is that we somehow need to align, and that question was raised before the break. We need to align what we develop in the XNets, what we then feed back to you, the joint action, to what we feed back to you, Leah, and to connect as well, and aligning all the different fora to make sure the level of information remains the same for everyone. Yeah, that somehow all these fora need to be checked how we best run this. Does it make sense?
it does.
Okay.
Lapo, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just want to comment on one thing. So I remember standing in Brussels in November, and I'm looking at this right now in retrospect, and I see there is a lot of momentum that is building. A lot of momentum that is building in multiple organizations across the entire industry here, IHE Europe, HL7, COSIR, MedTech. So a lot of this must be kept. I think it's a treasure that we really need to bring as the first real success of EHDS. So bringing these parties together in a very collaborative and constructive way. I think this is the real value that I can see right now after 3 months from November, from the Brussels meeting. So I would like just to highlight that, nothing more.
I mean, I agree with you.
Maybe,
Go on. Please, Leah.
yeah, I just wanted to, so thank you for your comments. I think an important, let's say, difference with the stakeholder forum compared to the the current e-health stakeholder group is that the forum, it's really a group for the board and the steering groups. So currently there is we are trying to align with the e-health stakeholder group, but it's an expert group of the Commission. So it's mostly when the Commission needs or to share or need feedback from the stakeholders that we have this platform. The stakeholder forum will be really at the service of the board and the steering groups. So the connection will be way closer. Also the exchange between the, how can I say, more the strategic, the operational view and the stakeholders will be way closer together. So this it's something that I would like to highlight because it's an important difference of the current governance and the current way that we interacted with the e-health stakeholder group. So the forum will be really hand in hand with the board and the operational part.
Okay, so new ideas, new tools, and I mean, we live in the 21st century, which means that we, instead of just making web portals that are one way, maybe we should think about making communication tools as part of it, so that our questions can be asked and then someone is redirecting to the right persons to get an answer, for example. So I think those are food for thoughts, how to organize also the technical tools behind the governance. So governance is one level. So Leah mentioned a lot of things also about the vision, and Yiannis, you mentioned that part of the importance of the regulation is, okay, structure the primary use of data, but treatment is one, prevention is the second that you mentioned, but also is research. So I think we do this in a way that we have better data to take more informed decisions in the future. So maybe you want to enlighten us a little bit more. How do you see this happening? Because your introductory statement was pretty interesting.
First of all, just a small comment on the on the first remarks. I think we're at the stage where collaboration needs to happen at a wider audience. Clearly, FPR has been representing the pharmaceutical industry so far, but there are other organizations that could also contribute. So we can widen the scope of the collaboration, and we'll be open to contribute as well in a bi-directional communication. And I think our members would really welcome that. Now, in terms of research, I covered most of it during my initial statement, but let me just kind of rephrase what we really want here. Again, if you look at the Draghi report, you'll see that Europe has a potential to advance research in the years to come. Why is that? Because first of all, we have very good scientists, we have very good universities, but what we haven't got is the speed to transform innovation into products. That is specifically true for clinical research as well. Clinical trials is one aspect of what we are looking at, and one would say, what is the best way to accelerate clinical trials in Europe? Now, the problem with clinical research is that there's a lot of red tape. Now, if we implement EHDS in a way that increases red tape, then we haven't done anything. Clearly, the regulation has many things to be clarified in the future, and FPR has given a lot of emphasis on the clarifications that need to be made in terms of protection of trade secrets, protection of IPR, and so on and so forth. But going back to reality, EHDS will be implemented locally by some vendors. The vendors have specific capacity and skills to deliver within the time frames that we're looking at. This is a constraint that cannot easily change. Companies have specific capacity to deliver products, and this is not something that could be changed within a few months or a few years. Now, if I look at the Greek market, there are 6 or 7 or 8 maybe AHR vendors that produce systems. Now, I don't believe that they can drastically change over the next few years, even if money was not an issue, and it is not an issue because we have a lot of money coming through Europe. Now, these vendors need to develop these specifications in a very short period of time, as well as many other things. If they do it in a way that does not reflect the needs of the patients, the researchers, and the clinicians, then we will not be successful. What do we need to do? First of all, make sure that we collaborate more closely, as you rightly mentioned. We understand the needs of the end users, as I mentioned before, and we reduce red tape to an extent which the final product is delivered quicker so that Europe becomes more innovative, more research-oriented, and can increase investment from abroad.
Okay, so I translate your basic message is that we need to go faster in Europe. Otherwise, the European market will be...
We need to be more efficient. In Europe, we do things perhaps a little bit slower than we could, I think. We just love our bureaucracy.
Yeah, I follow the news. I don't know if you have listened about this DeepSeek issue that transported a 400 billion market in the US into a $6 million dollars thing. So, in fact, we need to see things that are happening and try to adapt as a European market.
Stocks.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing that I mentioned before is there's a lot of innovation happening at the university level or the startups. There's a very buzzing innovation ecosystem. We should try to help that ecosystem flourish and become more successful. And the way to do that is use the opportunity of the EHDS to make the system more interoperable, easier to use, and to be able to make sure that the innovation that happens out there is linked to the EHRs being developed at the hospital level. Now, if we work in silos, then innovation will stifle, will never happen.
Okay, so I understand that we have two main topics that we need to address. So on one hand is maturity. We need to find a way to fast track maturity. And the second is testing. So I'll start with the first one. So Mariam, I know that you are working a lot on the field with real healthcare providers. So, and you, in your initial statement, you pretty much say that we are discussing all this in a little bit in our bubble, and we are not addressing what is out there. So what is your view? How can we use the regulation and the exchange format? Because the exchange format is behind all this. Leah mentioned the three things that will need to be somehow certified or conformity assessed, let's say, which is security, logging, and interoperability part. But all this needs to fit with the end user approach. So if you do this on a technical and it's in a laboratory and it's not on the real field, so how can we try to infiltrate best practices and approaches in this work that we have to do in the joint action to try to propose conformity assessment schemes that are, we mentioned already, they should be evolutionary, so that we try to follow the steps to do that. So one thing is the real life users, and the second is what Yiannis said, that we have an incremental group of people that are future vendors or future innovators, that in theory we should probably give them access from now to be part of this market and not wait and may potentially in part of this assessment, we should also think about those people that are future manufacturers, resellers, or all the other topics that the regulation is mentioning. So Mariam, your thoughts?
Yes, okay, there is a lot of opportunities here. We're talking about a big vision that is going to be a bit challenging to tackle everything, but then everybody here in this room have a role. So just ask yourself from your perspective, from either you're a healthcare professional, you work in the hospital in health informatics, you have a direct interaction with an EMR on a daily basis and see the problems of unstructured data, of the quality of the data that sits in the EMRs at the moment, what you can do. Now, for example, I will draw about the different country experience at the moment. The countries have different from what our work with and going to a lot of hospitals to assess their maturity. Also, countries have different levels of maturities in the adoption of EMR itself, even in a secondary care. Again, I'm going to talk about more of a medical record that's used for clinical documentation in hospitals, in the secondary care and tertiary care, and maybe specialty centers in European countries. I'm not talking about primary care. That's a completely different scenario. So we see big variability and heterogeneity in the maturity of these EMR adoption. So either some hospitals still short on paper, don't even have an electronic clinical documentation. So we need to think, okay, how we speed up these hospitals to actually have a proper EMR vendors. And actually here there is a real opportunity, because now if you are a vendor who will also be European Health Data Space confirmed, in the meaning that in your data modeling design, you already align with all of the specifications and all of the technical specifications of the European Health Data Space, then you will have a better recruitment processes, or you have a better chances in recruitment for these hospitals who need to speed up even just electronic documentation. Now, if you are already a hospital that have some sort of electronic documentation through either an international vendor or a local vendor, then you will have to work collaboratively with your vendor to understand how far is this vendor with what they need to produce as a format. So at some point, of course, the vendor himself, so whether it's Epic, Cerner, Daedalus, any of the vendors, are going to map their own data to the format. Hopefully they can produce what already exists as data in the EMRs to the format. But then there are, for example, if you are already still a country that design a patient record, and by patient record, I don't mean the medical record that's used to document care in hospitals. I'm talking about a much more longitudinal patient record on a national level to pull up in a patient-centric manner all of the data from whatever system it exists on a provider level. And that's a little bit of a challenge in a lot of countries, and we're trying to also at the moment assess, we're in a lot of conversations with a lot of countries at the moment to assess that level of national architecture in maturity as well. So again, you will have the patient data logged into the hospital systems, logged in primary care systems, but you would also need to create some sort of national longitudinal patient record. And I would assume, this is my assumption, again, I might be wrong here, but the countries who have some sort of a longitudinal patient record might be easier to comply with the European Health Data Space because they already have this data in a patient-centric manner in that form. So again, we have countries who still have hospitals short on paper need to go to EMR adoption, and then they can directly build in their procurement specifications the right type of vendor specification that's going to be aligned directly. Or if you are already a hospital that have an EMR, then you need now to go back and have a lot of conversations with your vendors, like how far you're going to be compliant and do all of the data mapping from your data model at the moment to the format. I mean, yes, the format, the specification haven't come out yet, and the timelines is a big of a thing, but we almost kind of know or expect what would be. Last point, I want to invite all of you. So in the HIMSS Paris conference, the European conference that we do, we already collaborate with IHE on the testing, and we have the interoperability showcase. So this is where we actually bring all of the vendors to actually work on a specific use case and show in real terms how does it mean to be interoperable and what's the clinical value from using of a very interoperable patient-centered manner data. So I invite you now, it's still open in making at the moment. If you are a vendor who have in mind a use case that might be relevant to the European Health Data Space, please come and work with us in the coming months. And then we're going to feature this in the interoperability showcase in collaboration with IHE. So just to start to challenge yourself at the moment. Now, I'm going to end up with a bit of a provocative thought. A lot of vendors at the moment, and this is from our discussions with vendors, because we don't only talk with hospitals on a daily basis, but also with vendors through a lot of focus groups and a specific program that we have, that a lot of vendors think this is a huge business change for them. And for a business that used to be based on data proprietary, it's very hard to move forward. But I know that people are very convinced of the vision that we are going. So they really believe in what we're trying to achieve. But then it challenged the business attitudes of the industry sometimes. But please don't let this stop what we can do together, because I think we can do a lot, and we are all patients here. So we're not talking about someone that's not existing in this room. I'm talking about myself as a patient. I'm so frustrated that I have personally to collect all my data from all of the different sources about myself in a patient-centric manner for myself to even understand my trends. This is very frustrating to me. And I'm so skilled to do that, being a pharmacist, being a medical person, being even a health information specialist. But in the same time, I'm thinking about my mother who cannot do that at all.
So I think you put a lot of points there. So the incremental maturity is one. Okay, so we have to focus on this when we are going to discuss. And we have also some meetings tomorrow internally within CHR to rely on that. But I think Mariam put a good introduction for you, Lapo. And she already proposed the first practical step. Let's use the HIMSS interoperability showcase.
I have a couple of comments on what.
And if you can add some additional practical steps.
Okay.
So let's be practical.
So starting from the back end of what you just said, so breaking change. So if you look at the history of this industry, we have transitioned from the late 80s, early 90s from not having anything besides people copying bits and bytes from data tapes or whatever to exchange data to DICOM, to HL7, and to IG and onwards. And we're talking now FIRE. Okay? So that means that there is a connotation of interoperability in us, okay, as human beings that really requires us to copy data and transport to somewhere else. Otherwise, we couldn't have copied the data files and then invent the standards and so on and so forth. But those inventions of the new standards, DICOM and HL7 in the 90s and later on, are paradigm shifts where the industry just needs to adapt. And it's an infinite game, if you like. Okay, this is not a finite game, it's an infinite game. So it will simply transition to something else. The industry is not scared by that. There are people in the industry that are, not myself, but that's one of the things. The second comment I have on what you mentioned before is something that I haven't said in my presentation because I didn't want to actually add too much stuff on top of things. Is looking from the industry perspective, the EHR installations are not a level playing field, okay? So you have basically two main groups, is the future, so what you have as your flagship product right now that has certain capabilities in which you can build EHDS very easily. Yeah. But this is for the future customers, okay? There is a plethora of existing customers that have a variety of problems, legal constraints, financial constraints. There are contracts that are been running for 15 years when even not, whatever was in place. So we need to live with that type of things. And there is a lot of homegrown stuff out there that we connect to. So really, it's simple to say, well, the industry as a whole, yes, but there are nuances that really will, sometimes we say the devil is in the details, right? So that's it. So, but what I like from this group here is that we have the momentum that we have built to look at this and overcome these problems. And we will do this in phases. We will find solutions, but if there is a constant direction forward.
Okay, so there is Leah that has raised her hand. So, Leah, if you want to comment or add.
Yes, I just want to say that I couldn't agree more with the words of Mariam, and thank you for that. And as a comment, I would like to maybe draw the attention on some activities that we do about capacity building that I think could help member states and in general, people working in the national digital health services to build knowledge. So, for example, currently we have one project that is developing a capacity building requirements catalog to try to map also the digital level of the members, their status for against the requirements, and also the idea is to learn from each other, so exchange best practices and training. So in this way, and we will have more capacity building projects or trainings. So also for member states and people involved, this is something that we can try maybe to promote better. because I agree with you that also the level of digitalization is different, the culture is different, and another thing that I wanted to say based on your like on your discussion this morning is that currently the awareness about the EHDS it's really low between healthcare professional researchers and patients, and we are really aware of this, and we are actually currently having a project to build to prepare communication materials for different stakeholders, because actually in this forum we are already talking about advanced steps, but there is one that is absolutely missing, and is awareness of what is the HDS and what is coming. So also to tackle that part, because if a health professional doctor doesn't know that is coming, how can they prepare? So just to complement a bit your points.
Thank you, Leah. So there are 2-3 topics that we need to talk, and we have 15 minutes, maybe less. So I think one part is capacity building and raise awareness. And I think this is a role that some associations can do very well. Mariam offered already some help, but maybe Verena and Annabel, you have some thoughts on that. If you can, in a very short statement, propose ideas. And then I would like to move to the... there's no order. I mean, anyway, then I would like to keep the last part, because this is something that is troubling us a lot within XTHR about the testing continuum and conformance. So then after, I would like your thoughts, Lapo, on how do we do that in practical terms, but also trying to address the newcomers in this ecosystem, because if we do all this for about 20, 30, 40 big vendors, that's important, but we need to create a new market. So we need to try to open all ourselves to try to increase and put the bar higher. So let's start with
Raising
Annabel.
awareness, that was your question. Yeah, well, what we do as COSIA, we use the opportunity in every panel, in every conference, trade shows, wherever, to raise awareness about the European Health Data Space and its potential for everyone. We do this regularly, also, for instance, DEMEA, these are big conferences where we do raise awareness, because ultimately, and you said that, Leah, many times, we need the buy-in of people for the European health data space. We need their trust, and we have to make sure our role in this is that we deliver interoperable and secure systems so that people can trust, because we can't afford losing that trust, because then, again, the space won't be used. And our role here is really making sure we maintain that trust, and we raise awareness, and we fulfill our role in, providing safe, secure, and interoperable solutions. And that's what we do in every conference, really. For the past, and I started doing that, I think the first proposal was out 2020, Leah, is that right? In May?
Yeah.
Oh, no, the first text or something.
21st, yeah.
For years, we are already out raising awareness. Yeah. But I think everyone has a role to play here, and everyone should do this wherever you are, and engage people into this discussion.
Building onto what Annabel said, of course, we use these kind of meetings, events where stakeholders gather. Also, for example, we have also our own events where industry gathers, our MedTech forum. So we also discuss the European health data space there, but also in our own working groups that really raise this awareness within industry. But also we try to be very active then also with projects. The Industry XNet is a very good example where we gathered with the stakeholders and gave input and tried to really engage in these discussions. And I think when we talk about awareness creation, it's also needed in terms of answering the questions that we have. I was very happy to see today the slides of Juha, where there was this questions raised, and I read the questions very fast and said, okay, these are questions that we have, and it would also be nice to have this possibility to get these answers and to work together on these answers, but also to get, for example, infos very easily for vendors, for industry stakeholders on the specifications, etc., to really maybe create along that way the point of information where they can also access all the information that they need from the EHDS side. And we really hope that this will be created then along the way when maybe also the specifications are then further developed. But going forward, I think there's a lot of work still to do, but we're very committed to being an active partner in this.
Just to add, I mean, the idea of data spaces, you came up with this already in 2020 when you raised the European data strategy. So it didn't come out of the blue. Yeah, it was something which was well planned, well thought through. The project starting with EPSOS, that was a whole, it built up to this. So it's not really a surprise. So yeah, we really have a job to do to make sure that everyone gets to know about it.
So, Lapo, what about testing? We know that the Commission has endorsed testing
Yes.
since EPSOS, so we are not starting from scratch either, right?
No, but let me start from another angle, so which is cost. So what we want to do here is that when we have manufacture new software that is EHDS compliant, we don't want to have additional costs passed on. Because if we do this, then we kill the entire effort. We're going to simply charge the patient or the citizen or the health systems there of additional cost. How do you reduce cost? You reduce cost in a company by reducing the number of unknowns. The unknowns are the things that you don't predict or you cannot control. So this is something that companies really don't like. And the more unknowns there are, the more tendency to create buffers that then ultimately will turn into cost increase. So one way to reduce cost in reducing the unknowns is to test. Yes, I've done a great implementation of HDS. How do I hell know that is working well, that is deployment ready? And the deployment ready approach is something where I can actually impact a lot of costs, because when I go to deployments is where I do have the most cost, because it's very labor intensive to send people and to train the users, to install the updates, to do all the things and potential. Every time we raise an update, there is also some risk that are associated with that. So testing is a key element where I can verify, validate what I have done. And IHE has done this for 25 years. And all the vendors that are orbiting around the IHE connector, and then we're talking about more than 800 companies worldwide that have tested the connector at one time or another. 800, okay, not 80, not 8, 800. So it's a large number. So it's an established methodology that allows me as a vendor that has done implementation to predict my ability to deliver a software to my customers or to my future customers that really works, that really meets expectations. This is even before conformity assessment, even before anything else. This is the baby step that I need to do in order to assure that my software is working, and therefore reducing unknowns and reducing cost.
Okay, and we are not talking, that's important, but there is this EU conformity that is at the end of the line, right?
At the end of the line, yes.
So that's some, and yes.
One point. I think it's very hard if vendors are just looking for the European Health Data Space as a specification that we just have to comply with because it's just a regulation. I know some are very bought on the vision, but also it's actually from a business perspective is going to be very beneficial, because a lot of EMR vendors at the moment are experimenting with AI models to dictate care pathways for patients, to try to predict the deterioration rates of patients and so forth. Now, this is what I see from the very mature hospitals I see all over the world. They have some reluctance to have a built-in AI model that will diagnose or so do much more aggressive than just the administrative work, that do either diagnosis or detect the next possible step for diagnostic testing or so forth, if the AI have not been trained on a data that's actually relevant to their own population. Now, all EMR vendors will, if we realize the potential of the European health data space, they will have a European-wide data to actually train their AI built-in solutions. So that will be something that's amazing. And because I could imagine that when they go to Germany and they have an AI built into their EMR, they will say, oh, no, but this was not trained on a German woman for detecting cancer. We want this to be happening. So now if we created this big lake of data for all European citizens' data, now we can actually unleash the whole AI training on a good data sets that does not have bias. And that's what the EMR vendors want. We do not want this fragmented market as what's happening now for the digital therapeutics, when we require evidence from the specific population in the EU country that actually this digital therapeutics is going to be marketed in. So it is actually a win-win. It might be a long-term win, but look at this very long-term benefit that a lot of vendors are going to have with when they have that access to that EU-wide data lake.
Okay, so obviously that's the food for thought and that's the vision to increase the capability of the EHRs. So, Haris, you wanted to...
Yeah, just wanted to go back to testing. No, because, it's our main concern, testing. Testing because it's the only way to see if the assertions, statements, prove the compliance. So back to this.
Back to this issue. According to XDHR, we're going to propose common specifications to the member states because the responsibility will be up to them to run the testing platforms, member states. But I imagine there should be a flexible model. I cannot imagine separately each member state do the testing. I can imagine regions to do testings. I can imagine European events to do the testing. So I imagine it will be a flexible model. I would like to hear your thoughts about this, because there should be some common directions of how to test and what to test. That's one issue. And later for Alexander, for the final, I think, discussion is to have these constant collaborations independently from projects. Per project is nice, but a project ends and then we start again and again to build this ecosystem and this trust. But let's hear about the testing.
Yeah, so the challenge there is either choosing diversity or fragmentation. That's where the challenge is, because diversity is positive and fragmentation is negative. So from a vendor perspective, fragmentation really is something that it's problematic to handle. It goes back to my uncertainty and unknowns that will drive then more cost. In diversity, if you mean diversity, then it's an opportunity, but it needs to be very well architected. And the thing that is important that the industry really appreciate about IT connectatons and IT support to projectatons is that the same methodology everywhere. So it's not a matter that it's done at the French level or the European level. I don't really care. What's important to me is that I go there, I know the methodology, I can trust the methodology, I know what the outcomes will be if I'm successful. And then if you have a consistent set of results from everywhere, then it's far more easier for you you were presenting the conformity assessment, I'm referring to that piece, to really have something as an input to that conformity assessment piece.
I imagine from the vendor side, imagine if I test my tools in Greece and then I go to Germany, then it's not recognized. This is a problem.
Oh, yes.
If I go to France and I test my tools and this is not applied in another country, it's again an issue. Because from the vendor side, the openness, I mean, to open the market, the interoperability, this accept the flow of data.
But are we talking of the same specifications everywhere, or we are not talking about the same specifications everywhere?
I think we need to stress to use the same specifications everywhere.
I 100% with you.
Model to have a regional testing,
absolutely,
European testing, or national testing, but with the same. We have to fight for.
Absolutely, 100%.
So one last statement from Andreas, and
is becoming interesting now. So
yeah,
you're cutting down.
Exactly. So I'm Andreas Klingler, Siemens Healthineers, and also Deputy Vendor Co-Chair of IHE Europe at the moment. Just stressing again this point, I would even go one step further, and that yes, the individual member states are mandated to run that testing platform that the vendors can make use of. But if we as a vendor would have to go to 27 member states, and test individually, well, there's a risk that we might decide the European market is not a single European market, and it's just too expensive for us and too cumbersome to really make products available in that market. So it's really important that when we test it once at one platform, like Siemens Healthineers headquarters is located in Germany, that we test against the German-operated platform, that this test results are accepted in every member states. And yes, the regulation allows that the member states can add additional requirements to EHR systems, but this is for vendors like us, especially large international vendors, a real big problem if this becomes too detailed. They cannot really deviate or cannot reduce incompatible changes. But if you need to do additional things for each individual member state, it becomes really difficult and expensive, and you might not find that as many products then in the European market as you want to. So that's very important, I think, for the member states representatives in XDEHR also to recognize and take back to their digital health agencies that please be extremely careful with introducing additional requirements there.
I think that's an important point, but from what Leah said initially, I think the purpose of the regulation is exactly that, to avoid this fragmentation around, at least for the three topics and from the harmonized component. Let's mention them as harmonized components. So these harmonized components will be hopefully the same anywhere, and they will be inserted in the database that Leah mentioned, which means that if you do the harmonized components, it will be accepted in all member states. That's the scope. So I think there are a lot of things that we can discuss. We didn't manage to do it all. I mean, even 1 hour is not enough, but that's why we need to keep this up and try to. So I kept the March 18. Maybe we can do something there, Leah. I don't know if you have any final statement from your side, so that we can still give the floor to the three implementers that have their own local position. But it's important to understand also from real companies that are doing real implementations in real life projects, their view. So as we tried to do the same thing yesterday with providers and patients, it's important to go back on the field and also listen to them. So Leah?
Yes, thank you so much. So I also learned a lot during this session, so thank you for all the input. I think my main message right now is to encourage everyone to really give feedback to the deliverables of the joint action, and maybe also a message for the joint action. Maybe we need to be even more effective with our stakeholder engagement, to give time to everyone to really read the documents and comment, because it's the most direct and efficient way right now, also for the vendors to have their say in the future implementing acts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we have just started the discussion. Okay, that's the first thing. So we will do it many times, and I guess we will do it in Paris, we will do it in Vienna. You also have one somewhere. Portugal. I mean, there are so many opportunities to do that. And maybe the pharma somewhere we can host us. We will see.